Yate bene. Welcome to the world of magic of Apache knife fighting, also known as Fight Like the Wind, Apache Knife. My name is Robert Redfeather, Chief Instructor and Founder of Apache Knife. I'm also a Chiricahua Apache, a role member out of New Mexico. And with me today, I have Robin Price, one of my head instructors, which I would like for him to step in, please.
Hey, Robin John Price. I've been with Red for about 5 years now, and happy to help him out with this project, and also here to help out the Martial Art History Museum.
Okay, before we start, I'd like to talk about safety. Make sure you wear safety glasses, gloves, mouthpiece or some type of helmet, or some type of chest protector. But today I will not be wearing it because I need you to see me. Robin will wear safety gear out through the course, but mostly gloves or a helmet. On some of the things we are going to show you. I would like to talk about the downward wind, which is one of our stories from knife fighting, which is north, south, west, and east. So the first technique I would like to show you is called a downward wind. Robin, would you get your knife out? Get your knife out, Robin.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
So as we're distance from afar, clip came out. It's amazing how that does it. Clip that back in. I guess I won't. Okay, right about here. So when your opponent comes in at you as a 5, from here, you don't want to be in a line of fire. Even if you were to check it or to stop it, you're still going to get stabbed. So your downward wind is 2 inches from your blade here. It's going to come around the blade. You're moving at the same time, and you're striking the back of the hand with your downward wind. Okay, one more time. He comes in. There's your strike and switch. Make sure you want to switch and square up so when he swings at you, you're not going to be there. Your fingers cannot be there because if he swings, he'll cut your fingers. The fingers have to come back. It could be placed from the chin to the heart or to the side. So one more time, he comes in, there's my strike and my switch. Okay. Now the shortcut could still be 2 inches from your blade, but it's a short burst. This should be a little quicker, like so, and switch. I'll do that a little slower. It's going to come down and strike. So now I want you to move. He's in motion. There's the motion there. Now, if I do the same thing and he reacts to the motion, that would be your check, and the knife here will go right to the throat. Robin's going to try to make some mistakes. He's going to try to make some mistakes because he's taught not to make any mistakes. So we will try to make some mistakes, right? Okay. So again, he comes in. There's my strike and switch. Short bursts, short, and switch. I'll let it move a little quicker and a little farther on that one. On your downward wind. Now I'm going to show you the downward wind with a stick. If you don't have a partner, you could place a stick between 2 walls or a shelf or a ladder. Same way with your downward wind. You're going to use 2 inches of your blade. Comes down, comes right back up with a hilt. Comes down, comes back out with a hilt. Here, don't have the blade facing up, because if it's facing up, he could push it towards you. Make sure the blade's always at a 45-degree angle, and you're hiding behind your blade. Very important you hide behind the blade. If I was to switch it, here, the same thing. He would come up here, the ear, come down, up, here. Make sure this hand is here so it does not get cut. There's no way you can cut it because when you're coming back, the blade is forward when you come down. Same thing here. Downward wind, small burst. Now what I like about the small burst is you can go forward. You can come straight in and straight up and then check. Anything you want to add to that?
No, the real important is you saw earlier how he moves out of the way. Because if he hits and I have time to react myself, I'm going to try and stab him.
That's correct.
I'm going to try and cut him, stab him, something. But if he's moving already, then he's out of there. So that's important to work into your knife work.
I think the next one we'll show the upward wind. And this is usually from the east or west, okay? So the upward wind, it's the same thing, except the only thing different is it's 2 inches of the blade, except the blade is facing up. Comes up like so, comes the hilt, it's going to come towards your chest. So if he rushes me, I can push forward and go for the neck. Again, so here I am here. It comes up and back. Up and back. And now we'll do it with the knife hand. So he comes in. I'm cutting out to the side, coming up, turning my body. One more time. Comes up, like so. I'll do a little slower. So to come up, cut, as I'm in motion, and switch. Now, if he comes in really quick, you can move off to the side and cut. You're only using 2 inches of your blade when you do that. Very important. Again, so you can check, cut, hilt, check again, and come in. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but the basic is upward and downward wind. So we'll just try to put both of them together. Downward, upward, and switch. Do a little slower. Upward, downward, and switch. Or downward, upward, and switch. Which one's your favorite?
I like upward wind a lot. Do you want to try turning?
No, not yet. We'll save that. We'll save that for later.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to add one more thing to that. We're going to add a check to that. So as I come up and down, I can check. Again, up, down, and check. Now remember, when you check, you should be moving back or right to left or in a circle. Because just because I check it doesn't mean it's going to stop it. Here's the check. He's still stabbed. I'm going to move to the side, still check. He still can cut. That's why you need to move after you check. So I move, I check, I'm not there. Because I can still do a downward wind. I still can do my upward wind because I'm still in reach. Now the secret of that, what makes it more interesting than that, is the knife's here, right? Now I move my feet, I'm not there. I come here, I'm there. Just a matter of moving your feet gets you that much away. And that's one of our secrets. So what saves my life all the time, and my students, when there's somebody goes to stab you, you can feel the knife almost entering your body. We call it a poke. As it pokes you, you step away from it. Most people, when they feel that, they'll hold the ground and try to fight it out. Big mistake, you don't want to do that. So the minute you feel that, you check it, cut, and step back. It's good to have a little poke instead of a stab all the time. So every time the opponent comes really close to me, he thinks he has me, but all I do is slightly move out of the way and I got him. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of practice. So again, we go 1, 2, check. If I wanted to surprise him, I can do downward, upward, check, and a switch. Did you guys see that? Maybe I'll do it again. Downward, upward, check, and a switch. A lot of practice. The switch comes really handy, but he can change the switch, and if he changes it, I can do a hammer. So here's my downward, upward, check. Now as I go for the switch, he's going to come and cut. There's my hammer. Notice when I hammered, I stepped away. You still have to have that room, but he's still in my reach. I am not, but he is. He's in my reach. So angles are very important. Most people will fight in an I formation, what we call, meaning they'll move this direction, or they'll move this direction, or they'll move forward, or they'll move back. But what they forget, as you move, he's also moving. So he's going to catch up to you. So if I move forward, I'll move back. Yeah. Okay. When I move back, he's already there. He can cut me. Go ahead. He can cut me. So if he goes to cut and I switch my feet work, he's out of reach now. So feet work are very important. You want to talk about that story? We always tell everybody we have no feet work.
Yeah, it's basically our footwork is walking, but especially people that have done other martial arts and they have specific stances that they learn, stuff like that, they have a hard time when they're doing fighting to just walk. It's just walking, but for a lot of people to do these techniques, it's difficult because they want to do some special
This is true.
stance as they're doing it. So it's hard to unlearn years and years of habits.
That's why the Marine Corps and law enforcement really like these techniques of Apache Knife, because when they take a storm of room, they glide the room from left to right. They'll move this direction and glide. Same way as knife fighting, we glide the room. So it's almost like you're on air, and that's where the term comes in, fight like the wind. Because as we're here, we're moving, but at the same time my feet are moving, and I'm circling to get away from my opponent. So when he comes in here, pretend your hand's a knife, pretend this is a knife. He comes in, there's a knife, but there's my movement here to get behind him. Now, as I try to get behind my opponent, he's going to move as well. Now I don't want you to do it wrong.
Okay.
So he's going to come in with his knife. There's my check. Now we both turn, and we're both in contact. We both could reach each other. So that's when you have to use your checks, you have to use your hammers, and you have to use both hands, and you have to deer back, which we'll get into much later. Thank you. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's just, he calls it fight like the wind. Imagine wind going around a solid object. It's going to flow. So if you're able to flow around the other person, it makes it much harder for them to track you. And you watch some of the high-level boxers and stuff like that, and you talk about see the way that they move. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities there.
Mm-hmm. So when you're during a knife fight, which some people say there's no such thing, we call them scuffles usually because they don't last too long. They get very frustrated because when they're mad, they're going to be swinging this way, coming this way. They come this way with a knife, which is really wrong. So when they do that, step back. So let's say he starts to swing. There is my upward wind because he's coming down. So when he comes down, that's the perfect shot right there. But what you do have to be careful is the pressure from these two fingers and these two here holding your knife. When the pressure is here, you could lose your blade. That's why you have to have a really good grip on your hammer, on your knife. So again, he comes, there's your upward wind cut, and then I got the hammer to check. Then I could do my other downward wind, which is a very quick burst, a check, and then again going forward. Very important. Also, if he comes down, right, same thing. You want to get rid of this, so you go towards the muscle, and you have all here and here. You just have to use your imagination. I don't really like showing people how to kill. I don't like the K word, right? We try not to use the K word because we use it for self-defense a lot. And then what makes it great for self-defense is because we cut and we move. We cut and we move, we cut and we run, we cut and we move. So it gives him the choice to stop fighting. It gives me the choice actually to run away. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, the intention is to stop them from attacking you. We don't want to kill a person. We want to stop them from attacking us because it's usually the other person that's the aggressor. And even on the battlefield between the Apache and other tribes, of the Apache and the cavalry, it was better to wound them.
To slow them down so they would stay behind to protect the wounded.
You had other people that had to care for the wounded person, which took even more people out of the fight.
And then we would just circle back and then finish them off. So it slowed them down a great deal. So you got to remember, you're out in the desert. There's no hospitals. And all you have is a medicine man or a healer back then. So when he comes in, again, he comes in, boom, I'm gone. I'm not there. I just want one good cut because the bacteria of the knife has all that bacteria on it. Bacteria, thank you for helping me, will kill him later if he doesn't get the proper care. So we did our upward wind, we did our downward wind, and so I'll show you actually how to do the hammer. We will cover these again You know, so the hammer is very simple. The hammer is through the head or the butt of the blade. He comes in, you just hammer down from this direction, that direction, or this direction. So if he comes in high, there's your hammer. If he comes in this direction, there's your hammer. If he comes in low, there's direction. But you got to remember, you don't want to stay there as you're doing your hammer. He comes hammer here, there's my movement here. He strikes this way, there's my hammer here, and check and move. He comes down low, there's my hammer here, cut down low and move. So that's why you're fighting like the wind. You're never really there. It gets them very frustrated all the time. So just talk about...
Well, let me add one thing.
Okay, go ahead. What do you want to add?
When you're practicing this, remember that the goal is to hit with the butt of the knife. So if you're really going at speed and hard, that's why these padded gloves help quite a bit. Sometimes when we're doing demonstrations, I'll put on these hard HEMA gloves, which protect my hand completely because this really hurts. And
We get carried away.
you get carried.
Oh, of course I do.
So if you're just practicing with your friends, it's okay to hit with the wrist, but in reality, you should be practicing with that butt of the knife because that's what you would be hitting them with.
Right.
And believe me, if I hit you hard there,
Knife could drop.
you're probably going to drop the knife because it
Right.
hurts, and you could break small bones in there. So be careful if you're practicing this.
Right. Another thing I would like to talk to you about is called Raven. Raven, of course, is a crow, well, raven bird. So when a raven sees a dead carcass on the side of the road, they'll land on the side of the road, and they'll land in groups. And one will say to the other, you go see if he's alive. So that one gets his hands up. He does like this. He goes and he touches the carcass, and he comes back. And then one says, okay, now you do it. No, you do it. And the other one go back and do the same thing. Before you know it, the coyote turns around and kills the raven, who wasn't dead. But the moral of the story is, when we're fighting, I want them to come forward. So the raven is not actually this direction. Everybody thinks you start off with a raven with your hands this way because that's the way I explained the story. But when you're fighting in reality, the raven is just a small burst towards the eyes, so you can have you need movement. So when my knife's here, he needs to see, his eyes need to see this, and his eyes need to see this, so I can pull off the technique I want to pull when I do my raven. So with raven follows the bear. Bear with me for a minute. So the bear is tall. He'll stand up tall to scare the enemy, and then he'll drop low to attack. So the raven is to get the eyes focused to make him move. He'll move back. As he moves back, I come down, I twist my whole body, I cut the thigh, and I go off this direction. And the reason for that is so you don't get your back cut. So one more time, it's here, cut, and move. Try to do it wrong. He's reacting, he's doing it right. I want him to do it wrong. So again, I do this, he steps back. As he steps back, I turn my whole body, I cut the thigh, and I move out. Now, if he was to do it right, he would get this leg, and he would just lift it up. So I come here, and he's got me on the head before I can run away. That's the correct way to cover that one. So again, you have to have those eyes busy. You have to make believe you're going to stab him in the eye to make this work, and then come down. A lot of people can't kind of figure this one out.
Well, sometimes we'll do the raven to see what type of person they are. Because if I do the just a raven could just be ha! Just to get a reaction out of them. If they're an aggressive fighter or inexperienced, sometimes when I do that, they'll immediately charge in, try and stab.
All right.
So you see what kind of person. If they step back when you do that, they're a little smarter.
They're
They're not
smarter, that's
rushing in to
correct.
get killed.
So the whole idea is raven is our jab. We do a lot of ravens to make the person to react to it Because if he sees 3 ravens, he's not going to pay attention to it, and that's when you're going to get him. For an example, we're fighting, I do this, I'm moving around, I'm doing this again, and all of a sudden I got him because he's not really paying attention to it anymore. The first time, like he was saying, if I do a raven and he comes forward, I'm going to step back to clear it so I can do my downward wind. I'm still in reach, but swing. He's not in reach. But if he steps, he's in reach. So every time your opponent steps, you have to step as well. You cannot stay there if he steps. So when I fight people and they don't step, they're always surprised. How do you get me and I don't get you? Because they're not stepping. I know they cannot reach me and out of practice. So when we teach with a long K-bar because it's easier to teach somebody with a long knife. After you get good and know your distance and your timing, you go down to a 4-inch blade. And that's what makes it really exciting.
Sure. Very close proximity.
Right.
But this will work with, big Bowie knife, it could be machetes. The principles are the same.
Are the same.
Whether it's a
Yeah.
longer blade or a short blade, the
That's
principles
correct.
are the same. You just have to adjust for distance.
That's right. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is another story, which is called the mountain grip. Now from the mountain grip, it's hold this direction. Here's your mountain here, and your mountain there. So that's very important because we have the sacred mountains, and the number 4 is very sacred to the Apache. So we use the number 4 a lot, the 4 seasons, the 4 directions, and the 4 colors on there. So on the mountain grip, as he comes in here, he's forward. So as I bring it out, as he comes in with the 5, there's my cut here, like so, and I can come back. I can raise it up, and I hooked it. It's very important, this is straight up, so he cannot go to the face. This one makes a lock. You don't really want to do this on your blade. It's this here. Then you're going to check it, and you're going to cut and move up to the side because he is going to swing his knife. You don't want to be there. So let's say he does it with the opposite hand. I have it here, hits, comes up, hooks down, in the same way. He's going to start swinging, so you got to make sure you're not there. So you really, really have to practice the mount grip. The whole idea is to make him come after you, to lure him in, because your distance is very short. It's to my chest. So he thinks he's got a target. Go ahead. He thinks he has a target, or he thinks he has a target here. He thinks he has a target there. So as he comes in, I can even come that direction, right? He comes in here. I can come that direction. Make sure your check is always here. So you can cut, because I'm going to cut right through here. Or I can scoop it here and then come up and down. What makes this so magical, imagine there's a sandstorm. Late at night, sand's hitting you pretty hard. You're being attacked by the enemy. Go ahead and put that on, please. So this is not really a trick. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of training, and a lot of timing. So as Robin's here. So now there's a sandstorm. I'm going to try to, he's going to do this correctly. He's not going to do this wrong. So sandstorm comes, we pull this down, so sand does not hit our eyes. So you use your ears a lot, right? So now you're fighting your opponent. As you fight your opponent, you come in here, you do a raven. He comes in, you can cut. So as we're moving around, right? We're fighting, moving around. He comes in, again comes in and comes up. Or if you're really going to risk it, comes in, you go high and come up. So and move. It's okay. I don't. That's why he wears the helmet. So the scarf is very important to our Apache people. There's 3 scarves we wear. There is black. It's for medicine man and for the chief. There's red for the Apache scouts. There's dark blue, and that's for the warriors. And that's all the colors we had. But TV and powwows and people kind of leaving tradition, or they get a gift of a different color of a headband, they're going to wear it. It's just not traditional. We never wore a white bandana into battle. And you see that on TV a lot. It's like saying, here I am, take my life. We will not do that in real time or in reality. We won't wear white on there. So it's also, we have this one here as well. It's to keep the sun off here. It's to collect water. If there's a hole on the ground, he would hold it and soak it up on the water. If you get it shot, you use it as a sling. If you want to tie your horse, you can do that. If you want to put the horse's eyes to protect his eyes, you can. We use it for many, many different things. It's also another weapon we use. If I had to, back up a little here. When a person drops their knife, don't assume he does not have another knife. Usually they do. It's very important. So my knife drops, we're fighting, my knife drops. I'm like, oh no. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this off real quick. He's going to come in charging after me. This comes down, turns up this direction, turns around here, and I'm gone. It does not matter if you look pretty after the fight. Does not matter if you come apart after a fight. I'm alive. That's what's important. You can hand me the other one, the one there. Right. So there's a lot of reasons why we wear headbands. So don't think it's just there for looks. It's not just there to hold our hair up, to look pretty. It's there for a reason. Usually when I have another knife, it's usually here or it's back here when they cannot see it. So we train ourselves when we drop the knife. Let me do it. So here, I'm going to pick that up for me. So I'm going to make a big mistake, and you're going to do this right. I'm going to drop my knife. I'm going to go pick it up, and he's going to cut my back and stab me because I took the time to go for that knife. So when you drop your knife, forget about it. You have to handle the situation in front of you. If you can take time to get to your knife, then you do it, but don't run for it because he will kill you. So that's how I have cuts on my back. I made that mistake as a young person. I dropped my knife and I got cut in the back and I never did it again on that part. So there's always good stories. Anything you want to say?
Well, back to the mountain grip.
Okay.
We get a number of people who, when we spar them in seminars and demonstrations, where they will have the knife out and they want to fight with that. Mm-hmm. But the problem is,
yes, when he fights like that, I'm here, poking him, and coming the side and moving, because he has short reach, and I have long reach. Show him the short reach again. It's short and long. If I was to step and move, it's here. If he was to step and move, I would step back and it's still short. So the whole idea is when you have it here, you want to lure them in. So you do a lot of ravens to get them to come in so you can hook it. It's mostly made for hooking. If I had two knives, have your knife, we'll pretend he has a knife on his right hand. He comes in, there's the hook, there's a goodbye, or the K word, which we don't like to use.
tomahawk and knife,
Tomahawk and knife, right. War club or a knife, so that's important too. You get to use both on there as well. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just wanted to bring that up because we do see a lot of people.
They'll try to fight us that way, right off the mountain grip, but they don't realize it takes a lot of practice, a lot of practice. If you don't practice enough, it will not work for you. So if you're going to fight somebody for the very first time, you don't want to be risky, you don't want to take chances, because you only get one chance in a knife fight, only one. It's like getting punched and you can recover. You can't shake it off. So that's very important on there, on that point. Okay, now we did the mountain, we did the upward wind, we did the downward wind. Now we're going to do the lightning, okay? Every style has a number system, but it's okay. I mean, they're all different. The human body can only move certain ways, unless you were some type of alien and your body can twist up or something. So lightning is our one is here, and then 2 is here, 3 is here, 4 is here, 5 is here. Then we have our 6. We have our 7. We have our 8. We have our 9. We have our 10. We have our 11. We have 12 and 13. Now this drill is really good. It gives you an idea how to cut. But in a real knife situation, you're lucky if you can do all these, right? So, but it just gives you direction how to move. So for instance, if we're actually fighting, if I want to start with light and I'm going to do a 1, go ahead. I would check and cut that arm. There's your 1. If he was to come this direction, I would check, cut. That's my 2. If he were to come high, I would check, and of course I would use my 3 or my 4. But in a real knife fight, your movements are going to be smaller. They won't be way out here towards the body. They're just going to be all in here. All the cuts will be here, in the square. You always have to show along so the person can get the idea how you're moving and the mechanics, and then you make them smaller and smaller and tighter. But your feet work is very important. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, a lot of times when we practice, we can practice this on a war post. You can make a little diagram on a wall so that you can memorize the techniques.
That's correct.
But the real thing is if we're doing a drill, especially in the seminars and stuff where we're teaching people, is we will have them start to do it, but the other person is going to be walking,
Be moving.
turning, and coming backwards and forwards.
It throws everybody off.
So that doesn't matter which way they're facing you or which
That's
way they're
correct.
moving, you can still do.
I'll show you a small example. Go ahead and put your knife away. So he's going to move around. So try to stay in this area though here, Robin, if you can. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Some people, when the minute he turns around, go ahead and turn around, they go, oh, what do I do? A 1's a 1, it does not matter. So if your 1 is this direction, it's going to be that direction all the way down to your knees. It never changes. Same with the 2 on the grid. It never changes. Same with the 3. It never changes all the way down. So that's the benefits of that. Another thing is a really good drill. The knife drill is really good, but in a real knife situation, it could change everything. So I'll take the blade out. He's going to come in with a 5. Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah. Gets them every time. So what it is, it's a switch. The switch is hard to see because you're working on your timing on your hands. But this is a really good drill, but in a knife fight, you could pull this off. Go ahead. Come in with a 5. And then that's it. Because he ain't going to let me do it. He ain't going to make no mistake. If he does, then he's dead. Right? So if he comes in up high, that's the right way. He didn't make any mistake. He got out of the way. He moved. There was no mistake. So he learns. It took him, oh, he was driving me crazy. I think it took him 3 years to actually move.
Exactly the way you wanted me to.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. So checking, hammering, that one is all good in a knife fight. It always changes whatever your opponent does. It's never going to work. It does in training or in practice. We call that chaos or broken bridge. Okay? So, which is very important. So, what we just did, we didn't know what we were going to do. We just did basics. Because he can change it to me anytime, his movement. So, when I come here, I come here. I don't know what he's going to do after that until he reacts. So that really helps you in a real knife fight. Now he's going to do the same thing, except this time he's going to move back. See, he's not there. Changes everything. So we'll have our knives out. I come in. He's not there. I can't reach him. He knows I can't reach him unless I what? Step. Now we can reach each other. So I'm here, I can reach him. As I stab, I'm going to step back. That's what I'm going to do, step back, which is very important. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's all, when I first started learning with Red, I've been doing martial arts for a long time. Thought I was pretty good. But he has the movements down so well that it was like trying to fight a ghost. If he didn't want me to touch him, I couldn't touch him. And I'd get stabbed over and over again. So once you learn how to move just enough, it changes a lot. So it does take a lot of practice.
It does. That's how I got the name Ghost Dog, which turned into later the Shadow Wolf. Shadow Wolf is a lot of history with that name itself, but the way we fight with the knife. Here's an example, which a lot of people don't know. Apache means the enemy, or fighting men, or people. It's how you put it in a sentence. But Apache Knife, all that means is it's the enemy's knife. To understand the enemy's knife in combat, that's what it means. It doesn't mean Apache Knife, just because I'm an Apache and this is the knife. It means to understand your enemy's knife in combat. That's what's really important. Some people call it laganza, which is an old term for fighting or war. And then some people will use it sometimes for combat. It's also an old term. This goes down to politics, and people use certain words for certain things, and you know, everybody is an expert. The knife can kill you. The knife doesn't care if it's upside down when it stabs you, or if it's in an angle when it stabs you, or if it's this way when it stabs you. The knife does not care. The knife does all of the work. A 10-year-old can kill you with this thing. You can get a lucky shot. You're gone if you hit a main artery. That's why it's very important you understand the blade, either in his hand or without his hand, how to move and how to get away. Now, I always teach a student how to get away first, and then how to move your angles and use your feet work. When you first come to me, I don't talk about feet work. I worry about up here, because this is all natural to you. Then I work here, which is not too natural, unless you're a good dancer. Then I work on the feet last, and that's the hardest. So if I had a stick, well, you would be this wide, be smacking you so hard every time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything you want to add to that?
No, you know, again, the footwork, we say it's just walking, but there's more to it, but it's
You
still
try not to make
basically-
it too complex.
Basically still just walking.
Right.
You should talk about how you learned Apache Knife.
Actually, I kind of did. It was my grandfather's story. Oh, that's right. Okay, you're right. What happened is I went to a party with this girl, and she ran into her old boyfriend. Her boyfriend did not like me being with her. So he came up to me, and he goes, where are you from? I went, what? He goes, I'm Crow. And I said, I'm Apache. And then he pushed me. So when he pushed me, I went to do a roundhouse kick, and he stabbed me right in the foot. I don't know where that knife came out. I was limping. The fight was over. I went home. My grandfather goes, what's wrong with you? I said, I got in a fight. He goes, well, what happened? The guy told me he was a Crow, and I told him I was Apache. My grandfather laughs, and he goes, he was telling you he was from Crow Village, not he was a Crow. So he goes, come with me. He takes me out in the backyard. And he goes to the tree, breaks a branch, and he goes, attack me. I go, what? He goes, attack me. I go, well, I have one leg. He goes, attack me. So I go and I swing at him. He hits me in the hand. He gets me mad. I go swinging at him again. He hits me on the head. I swing at him again. He hits me in the butt. I said, whoa, what are you doing? He goes, knife fighting, Apache knife fighting. It's time you learn. I said, okay. So weeks go by. He's a construction worker, so he went to work. And my grandmother was in the backyard with her apron and hanging clothes up. I'm working on the war post, and I'm here, and I'm striking at it. And she goes, you're doing it wrong. I go, I'm not doing it wrong, because you're doing it wrong. And I'm going to show you exactly what you did to me. Have your knife out. I'm moving. Put your arm straight out like you're like the war post. So I'm coming out to the side. I'm going this. Boom. And then I'm moving. That's exactly what I was doing. You're doing it wrong. She goes, you got to do it like this. And I went, she goes, well, who do you think taught your grandfather? And I went, no way. She goes, yeah. So the moral of the story is, during World War II, she wanted my grandfather to come back from the war, so she taught him. So, and it was just amazing, but my grandfather was really, really strict. He didn't want me to teach anybody. It was only for family. I couldn't teach it to martial arts. I couldn't teach it to nobody. He wanted it to be pure. He didn't want it to be soup. He wanted it to be the whole thing as Apache Knife. So I wasn't allowed to teach anybody, and I never did, except for one day. It was during 9/11, during that time, and it's a long story. I don't know if I want to. It's too much.
You can shorten it.
Oh, yeah,
The
I can shorten it. You think
military
so?
guys saw it.
Okay, so we had a seminar at my school. There was a lot of military, a lot of law enforcement there. One of the guys wanted to know, what's that you called? Because they were knife fighting, and I was laughing at them. He said, can you do better? I said, I don't know, I'll try. So I fought each one, and I beat them. They go, what are you doing? I go, Apache Knife. Well, do you teach it? I go, no, I don't teach it. Why don't you teach it? Why would I teach how to kill? I'm a Buddhist. Because you're a Buddhist, you're an Indian. I just laughed. And then they all left. Then again, Tanner came back and wanted me to teach the Marines. I told him no. He kept coming back to my school. I said, no, no, no. Finally, he became a student, and I started teaching him. 3 months later, I'm teaching the Marines. So I taught about 30 Marines, and it went from there. After that, I became a government contractor, and I've been teaching ever since, and getting some of the blessings from my family. And then, of course, other people like to throw rocks at you. And the only way I can prove there's Apache Knife, I say, well, this play, this dance. And then they realize, yeah, you're right. It is Apache Knife, and it is different. And what makes it so different is we don't stand on the ground, and I don't stay there for you to stab me. I move constantly like the wind. Is that short enough for you?
Sure enough.
That was a lot of talking. I don't know.
People will see what Red teaches, and they say, oh, that looks like Filipino, or that looks like Italian, or, you know, if you've been in martial arts long enough, you know that there's only so many ways that a body can move. There's only so many angles. You can compare Japanese katana to the German long sword. They're both two-handed swords. There are going to be a lot of comparisons. But yes, we have a lot of the same movements, maybe a little different flavor that we put on it, but
It's always the philosophy.
the philosophy
movements
behind it, the
behind
movement, the whole approach to it that makes things slightly different than other things.
Here's another thing that I can show them what makes it almost we have in common with martial arts. I think this is the only thing we have in common with martial arts. Bring your knife out. We're good to fight. There you go. We call that a war cry. You guys call it a ki. That's the only thing I think we have in common. The war cry is to make the enemy's eyes buckle up, and then we go for the stab. It's also to make them to attack forward, to make him react. So when he reacts, I'll cut him when I'm stepping back.
basically a raven type of technique.
It is a raven technique, but with a war cry,
Yeah.
pretty much. So it works a lot, and sometimes people, I tell them to do a war cry, and they sound like a little bird, which is pretty funny, I think. Okay, why don't we show them daring back?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to attack you,
Okay.
and it just came
Doesn't
out.
always work.
I know. So I'm going to attack him with a 3 or a 4. So make sure you're in frame. Step towards me more.
this way.
Okay, bring your knife a little up. So give me a target. No, get away from me because I won't strike you that way. There you go, like that. So what he's doing is he's tucking his body, so it barely gets to him, but I'm still in reach here as he steps back. Now he's like this. So the way to get out of it is he has to straighten his body and step back. That's how you get out of it. So when you're here and you're raven, body comes up and you just walk back. Or you can raven back and you can turn out of it. It all depends how he attacks you when you do that. Okay, let's do one more time. Give me a good target. I'm going to attack you.
Okay.
Give me a good target. Give me your belly. There you go. And just like so. It's kind of hard because you're going to run into that mirror.
I'm trying not to step back too far.
Right, so we have raven, we have mountain, We have daring back. We have downward wind, upward wind, snapping turtle. And then, of course, we have sawing and hacking. Sawing, if he was to grab me in the headlock, it's a very simple technique. You would use the center of your blade, you would hit, and then you would just saw on that point. He will let go. Hacking is pretty much when you're just hitting the shoulder repeatedly, so that way he'll let go. And then we have pecking. Pecking is about 2 inches of the blade. It works great from the mountain, so he comes in, hooks it, comes up, it cuts, and it starts to peck right behind the neck. And the reason for that is, you hit that nerve there, he'll hit the ground, he'll be paralyzed. He won't be able to move, but he's not dead. That's what they do at the people at the morgue when their body's moving. They take that, they take that little thing and then they can't move. The body goes back down. You know, when they rise up?
Right.
I don't know what you call that. I'm not a doctor.
There is a technical term for it.
I thought you might know it.
Don't remember it.
White men know everything. No, just kidding. Little humor though, little red humor.
We talked a little bit about poking.
We did. We did.
How to avoid so that you get it, but it's also, remember that.
Right. I have an idea.
Okay.
Why don't we do a little free sparring and fighting, just to show you kind of like what we do. But we're not going to wear all the safety equipment because we're not going full board. We do this from time to time. So we train at my school, we train with equipment, without equipment. Don't you do that because you guys haven't done it for 4 or 5 years. Once you get confident and you have a really good partner, you can do this. But if you have a beginning partner, you always want to suit up with equipment every time. Okay. So we're going to do a little, we don't have that much room, but we're just going to move a little. So we start off, there's always movement, right? So we do a little raven, there's some movements. I'm going to try to keep away from the camera. Here and here, right? Good. Little. Strike, good, cut. Coming across, coming here, check, good. Stepping back, good. Not bad, good. See how, okay, stop. See how close that was to the eye? But he knew not to stay there. He knew he's supposed to step back. You cannot do this with a beginner. There's no way you could do this with a beginner. So that's kind of like how the movement is, the way we fight. It's just hard because we have a small area here. And always moving. You got to keep the eyes busy. If the eyes are not busy with something, he'll know what you're going to do. Here's an example. We call this a dead hand. This hand's not doing nothing, but this hand is. Go ahead, he can cut it. It's not doing nothing. So no purpose. Now he's just go for a stab because his hand didn't do anything. So if you got both hands moving and he comes in, I can check it, right? He hand comes in again, I can check it and I can switch on him. He hates when I do that. Actually, that's one of your favorite techniques now, isn't it?
I've gotten better at it, yes.
I know you caught me a couple times. A couple. Got me a couple.
I have to
The whole
say that.
idea, you always want your students to be better than you. When they can defeat you, because that's what I'm doing, I'm teaching you guys how to defeat me. Almost. Takes a long time. But when you can defeat me, feels like I did my job right. I did something I'm supposed to do, save lives on that. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, not like the old ancient systems where the instructor would keep things from his
Yeah.
students so that they couldn't kill him.
No, you
take
couldn't do
over.
that. You couldn't do that in a knife fight.
No.
There's no way you can do that on that. I never turn down a challenge. Challenges are always fun to me. When people come to my school, it's a friendly challenge usually, or they'll come to my seminars and we do a lot of friendly fighting there. Right off the bat, when you come to a seminar, I fight you first. The reason why I fight you first is to see what I need to work with to make you better. I can make you faster, and I can make you better from the things you already know. I don't change you. You want to add it on what you already know. If somebody tells you to forget everything you know,
It's impossible.
Doesn't work that way. Your brain don't work that way. So you just add it on to your arsenal.
But it is fun because if we're teaching a large class at some of the seminars like
Right.
Dragon Quest.
You didn't say it right.
I said it wrong.
You're talking like me.
Yes,
Dragon Fest.
Dragon Fest.
Right. Right.
Would have 30 to 40 people come in, and so we'll split it up and we'll spar so that everybody in there, so that we can see what their skills are. And some people are pretty
Right.
good.
They are.
Some of them are really fast, naturally fast and stuff, but we end up killing pretty much everybody.
And the reason for that is because they're always going to that left and right bow from martial arts. They have to know when to move that way, but they also do sword fighting, and constantly they're lunging or they're moving this way, and they're stuck. Their back foot is stuck. That tail is not moving forward with their body. So when you're straight up this way, you're a lot quicker because you're moving this way. You're a lot quicker instead of trying to fight this way. You know, your feet, back foot. If my back foot comes up, that's telegraphing. If my foot comes back here, that's telegraphing. If my foot comes to the side, that's telegraphing because you know he's going to do something. Here, it's kind of hard to tell because your whole body's moving. You don't know what I'm going to do. That's the difference on that. So, like I said, it's not wrong. You just got to know when to do it. Because every time I fight somebody, that's the problem they have. They're just slow because of that. And when I tell them to square up, they're saying, well, I'm a target. That's correct. You want to give them a target. You want to give them a target so you can fake them out and get them. If you're sideways, you're giving them way too much of a target on there. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, it's very similar to a boxing stance. You have everything here. And you'll see some kickboxers squared up because that way you've got everything ready to go and you're not having to turn. Sometimes it takes longer.
Right.
So whatever your stance is that you've learned, every martial art has their own stance and way of movement. You have to be able to adapt it and you find the best way, the most efficient, economical way of moving.
But we're not saying Apache Knife is the best. I'm saying every martial arts is the best. It's how you apply it and how you use it. Everything works. It's how you apply it during battle. It's how much you practice. How much you practice of your own art to make it work for you. And just because it works for you doesn't mean it'll work for somebody else. So
yeah, it's the stances that other arts have are because they've developed it to work with what they do.
right,
This works best for what we do.
right. So the whole idea again, one more time to wrap it up is always move, always keep both hands moving, always checking. And thank you for being here for the magical Apache Knife fighting with me and Robin Price. And we also thank Michael Masuda and the Martial Art Museum for having us today. Let's go in there.